The VFR 1200 has and always will be one of my favorite motorcycles, but it's not perfect. And this bike has many flaws that can't be ignored. And today, we're going to talk about everything wrong with the VFR 1200F. Some of these things are permanent issues, other things can be resolved with tuning and aftermarket parts, but they are problems nonetheless. My bike is fully stock, so we're going to talk about the issues that this bike has fully stock. And the first one is the biggest and most annoying problem outside of that other one. The other one we'll talk about at the end, but the first one is this thing, the throttle. Crazy enough, if you don't pay very much attention, you will see that this bike has cables. We like cable throttles. Cables are more responsive, they're true to feel, but the VFR 1200 is a strange mix of old technology and new technology. It basically has the first generation of everything. It has ABS, it has traction control on the second years. This is a 2010, it does not have traction control, but all the following years do. And it also has electronic throttle bodies. So how does it have a cable? So with this VFR, you have the cables actually run from the throttle to a little mechanism that I am not going to take apart right now because it takes about 45 minutes to get there. And that's probably one of the problems. These fairings take about 45 minutes to disassemble between this piece, and all of the lower pieces. There are like 30 clips. It is clipception. But the throttles, they run from here all the way down to an electronic sensor right here next to the frame, which is very difficult to get to if you've ever had to take it apart. But this cable runs to a pressured spring. So the throttle feels like a cable throttle. It feels like a normal throttle. It has spring and it is actually actuating something. It's just actuating a sensor. That sensor activates an electronic motor, which activates all of the butterflies, just like any sort of electronic throttle. So it has the feel of a cable throttle, but all of the problems of an electronic throttle. And electronic throttles aren't really that big of a deal. The problem is that what happens with your hand and what happens with the actual butterflies are different. That is why you feel power come on later. That is why electronic throttles feel unresponsive, is because it's literally doing something different. So with this bike, you get a thing that in first gear, second gear, and sixth gear, it has emissions restrictions. It is dumbed down on power. In first gear and second gear, under about 5,000 RPM, this thing feels like a 600. It is almost 100 foot-pound of torque, 1200 cc engine that basically feels like you have to fully twist the throttle in first and second gear from the factory. Many people hate it. It is easily solved with a flash or a tune, making the throttle true to input, and that completely changes it. But from the factory, first and second gear on this bike go nowhere. And then you get all of the power later on in the power band. It is the weirdest transition. You go from nothing to everything right around 6,000 or 7,000. And the thing is, you don't change the throttle input. You go, you hold it 20 or 30%. And as the revs increase, you feel the throttle begin to open as if you were applying power, but you're not the one doing it. And then third, fourth, and fifth, you get all the beans. So it's really confusing to ride. And then this weird issue happens sometimes in third gear at low RPMs where the sensor kind of just doesn't read correctly. It essentially feels like your throttle's not doing anything and like the butterflies die for a second. And then you just like rev it past 4,000 RPM and it's fine. I've had this issue happen a couple of times, never on video, so I'm not able to replicate it. But it has happened enough for me to notice. And also, there's another electronic issue that's not an issue. It doesn't break anything, but it's just electronics being electronics. Look. And as you can see, this bike also has a gear indicator. Sometimes it has a gear. Hey, there it goes. You remember I told you I love this motorcycle, and I really do. And I had to pick things that I didn't like, and it took me a while, but there are things that I dislike about this motorcycle, which are strange. You remember all of those fairings that I told you about? You have the front plastic, you have this piece, that piece, this piece, that piece, that piece, this piece, all the pieces. It's a 1200cc V4 that gets pretty hot. You don't feel it. The bike does a really good job channeling the air. Thanks to these vents and everything being covered, a lot of the heat comes out towards the back of the motorcycle. But the heat that doesn't come out of the back of the motorcycle, it gets absorbed into the plastic. So when you come home and turn this bike off after a long day's ride, you get a nice whiff of hot plastic. Why is that important? I have no idea, but I literally smell like plastic's burning, and I've gone to look and see if maybe a plastic cover's touching the radiator. There's oil leaking somewhere where it's not supposed to. It just smells like hot plastic. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't affect the ride in any way, shape, or form, but anyone that owns a VFR will tell you they've noticed this. No one's ever going to complain, no one's ever going to say anything, but that's why I'm here, to tell you the hidden things that people really don't like about this machine. This is a sport touring machine. It is meant for touring in the sporty variety. And the sport portion of it means it's fast. It's 170 horsepower, 98 pound-feet of torque, 600-pound machine. It's fairly quick. And if you accelerate briskly, you feel it. You feel it in your body, you get pushed back, you feel the torque, you feel the power from this machine. And it's extra fun whenever you get this. This is the slipperiest factory seat I've ever sat on. It's this weird plastic material, and when you're sitting, you may have a little bolster right here, but your passenger, your backpack, which tends to ride on this motorcycle a lot, doesn't. The handles do the saving, the bags do the saving, but the seat does all of the slipping. Again, solved by aftermarket, but it is a problem nonetheless. If you like dad bikes just like this, hit that subscribe button below. And we just talked about a problem with the sport portion of this bike. The seat doesn't hold you in place, but it's a sport touring, so there has to be some touring type issues. These plastic bags are awesome. They are very easily removable, literally like that. They have their own hanging mechanism, no screws, no bolts, nothing but a key. You can take it off, put it on just like that. But when you go riding, you want a place to put your helmet, and this ain't it. I'm sure you can get creative with a bungee cord, but that kind of defeats the purpose. Now, everything else about this bag is actually fairly awesome. You have this little clip right here to keep it from going open if you want to get easy access, or you can pop it open. If you decide to spend a little bit more dollars on this machine, you can actually get nice leather bags that fit in here so you can pre-pack them, and then you don't have to worry about it. But for some reason, this other side has this lump. I don't know why. And since this machine is a sport touring, that means it has the sport issue of a slippery seat, the touring issue of weirdly shaped and odd sized bags that don't fully fit a helmet unless you have the noggin of an 8-year-old, in which case that does fit. My 10-year-old's helmet fits in there, but that doesn't help me at all. You get the pannier up top, and that one does fit a full-size helmet, but it's also discontinued here in America in like $1,500. So for me, it's not worth it when you can get a Givey for half the price. But it does an interesting thing. It combines both problems, the problems of sport, the problem of touring. As you can see from this angle, this bag is fairly exposed. And since this bike is fast, you enjoy going fast. And this is an issue that took me about 3 years to realize, and I wasn't even aware of the fact that it was happening. Aerodynamics, that front channels the air back, it flows over the side and hits this bag right here. If you always ride with your bags on like I do about 90% of the time, it's never a problem. But one day I got a little frisky and I decided to go on a dedicated, spirited ride, so I took the bags off and I realized something that I just can't unfeel anymore. This bike with the bags feels like it's getting blown around all over the place when compared to taking the bags off. I took the bags off and this thing cuts through the wind straight as an arrow. I am telling you, it doesn't get pushed around. It doesn't move left and right. It is arrow straight. And then you put the bags back on and you feel the turbulence. You feel the wind pushing you around. And I don't know how to feel about it. It's a VFR. It looks better with the bags on. I'm going to keep the bags on, but I know that I can feel it now. So if you buy a VFR and it has the bags on, don't take them off. Do you remember all these plastics from earlier? Well, this one covers the 4.5 gallon tank. The tank is metal, but it's 4.5 gallons. In most cases, you would think that that was enough and that you wouldn't have any sort of range issues. The VFR is thirsty, like thirsty. Like averages less than 40 miles to the gallon thirsty. I mean, my 95 Magna gets better fuel economy than this bike. So this thing, although it has a 4.5 gallon tank, struggles to get over 160 US miles to the tank because it's thirsty. And the more you do this, the more it does this. And I can't stop doing this. So try about 120 miles to the tank in most cases. Do you remember that I said that these plastic vents right here channel air around the motorcycle so they're not too hot? Well, they do. You don't feel any wind from the engine. It doesn't come up. It doesn't go around. As soon as you're driving, you don't feel it. But for some reason, there's one air gap that channels all of the hot radiator air right there. I don't know where it comes from. It doesn't happen on the left side. Only on the right side, by the brake, does your ankle get absolutely roasted with hot radiator air. When you're riding, it's not that bad because it gets mixed in from the wind, but at red lights and in slow speed stuff, you need to have long pants on, you need to have socks, boots, anything to cover your ankles. It will roast you. Now we have two more issues to discuss. Two things that every single motorcycle has, but this happens to be different. Drivetrain and suspension. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the drivetrain first, but let me remove that bag to show you. As I said, this is nice and easy. Insert key, remove, lift handle, bag off. Now you get a nice fancy single-sided swing arm. As you can see, the disc is on that side, but once I remove the bag on the other side, you will see the problem. Have fun adjusting for lighting on this. A drive shaft. I don't remember the last time that I actually talked with a microphone on my helmet. Off-roading. Off-roading. All right, so hopefully you can see this. With the drive shaft, you get this. 3,000 RPM, second gear. We're gonna let off the throttle a little bit. That's not throttle body delay. That is clunk in the drivetrain. Since these bikes are fairly uncommon and unpopular, hit that like button below to let me know that you're interested in one of these things, because there's not very many of us out there. So yeah, the drive shaft does weird stuff, but it's not that this drive shaft is bad or worse than any other. It's basically just, that's what drive shafts do. There's a little bit of play, so when you're on and off throttle, you get basically the gears meshing together a little bit weird, almost like a loose or worn chain, but it's just a permanent thing. On the flip side, you'd never have to adjust it or do anything but change oil every probably 2 oil changes, which is drain bolt, fill bolt. Super nice and easy, low maintenance. I don't mind it. When you're under consistent power or going 50, 60 miles an hour, you never notice it. It's really at slow speed, but as long as you modulate your clutch, it's not really that big of a deal. So now that last thing you can kind of see from this angle, and it is the shock, the suspension on this bike. Since it's a sport touring, again, it blends the problems of sport and the problem of touring. Sport bikes use stiff, firm suspension to be able to plant, handle turns, and take high G-forces. Touring bikes have long, comfortable suspension. They're soft, they're plush for taking long roads, absorbing bumps, you know, the complete opposite of a sport bike. So this having to blend both of them is really strange. If I'm being very honest, it doesn't do a bad job. It has fully adjustable suspension, front and rear, fairly long travel, and an adjustable monoshock in the back, so it checks all of the sport boxes. But if you're very keen, as soon as I sit on this, you're gonna notice how much slack there is in the rear. It's firmer than most touring bikes, but it's still relatively soft, and that creates a weird issue with handling, especially at slow speed. Most motorcycles, when they handle at slow speed, as soon as you start moving and you go about 5 or 10 miles an hour, you can begin to counter steer. And this bike does something strange. If you've ever ridden two up with a passenger on the back, you'll know that since the weight is shifted a little bit further back, it takes you a little bit longer to begin to counter steer, usually about 15 to 20 miles an hour versus the normal, basically anything above 5. This bike handles as if you have a passenger without having a passenger. So 15 to 20 miles an hour is when you can actually begin to counter steer and you feel the bike stop steering. Not broken, nothing completely wrong with it, it's just strange. And if you do have a passenger, it gets even worse. I'm fairly certain that is because the shock in the back is simply too soft. It either needs to be a little bit more firm, which you can adjust, but it's just not firm enough, or it needs to be a slight bit taller. A lot of the early bikes had this figured out, basically like my first gen R1, the suspension in the back was too soft. So under power, the front end would get a little squirrely because instead of being kind of planted a little bit higher in the rear, lower in the front, as you can see from the stance of this bike, it is fairly low in the back, which I'm pretty sure is the culprit and the cause of that issue. Again, solved with aftermarket. They have adjustable shocks in the back. You just can't extend the height and the length of this, but one of those minor things that's just, you live with it. This bike is an absolutely amazing machine. All of these things are small gripes, which I literally don't care or think about on a day-to-day basis. I literally had to sit down for a good amount of time to think about these, and it only becomes really, really apparent when you go from one motorcycle to another, which I do fairly regularly, and then it becomes apparent because these are just things that are just not there on certain other motorcycles. But when you have this bike and this is your only bike, you don't even notice it. These are things you don't even think about on a day-to-day basis, and I'm aware of them and still don't really care because the rest of this bike is that good. Dad bike. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you guys are interested in a VFR 1200, now is the time to do it. I literally heard a guy got one for like 4,600 bucks, euros, or right around 5,000. And I paid like 75 for this and it was still pretty cheap. So great value for the money, especially now the prices are going down. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want a VFR, hit that subscribe button for more content just like this, because the next one is going to be about my 7 years of ownership. I've actually had this bike for 7 years, put over 10,000 miles on it within those 7 years. And that's time I told you guys how I feel. Also, if you enjoyed this video and want to know more about this dad bike, check that video out right there.